The film opens in the western fields of America, where a severe drought has doomed the land. A man named Ernest Holm is seen shooting two guys who are trying to steal water from his well. He then joins his son, Jerome, and tries to pump water from the motor, but mud comes out, indicating their source of water has gone.
Should we go back?
She'll make it.
Afterwards, they head to sell their supplies to the guys who work with water supply for the government, in exchange for the hope of getting water supply for their land. When they head back home, their mule takes a fall and breaks its leg, prompting Ernest to euthanize it with his gun, which makes Jerome disturbed. When the two return home, Mary serves her father and brother some dehydrated food and cancels the plan to go to auction and visit her mother since she's unhappy with her family. The following night, Mary gets ready and flees without telling anyone, but Ernest hears the sound of a motorbike. The next day at the auction, Ernest gazes upon a carrier machine called the Simulate Shadow that's built in just like his mule, so he joins the bid on it. A boy named Flem, who is also the son of the auctionist, Sam, tries to outbid Ernest, but his father sells the Simulate to Ernest.
Down to number 26!
When they visit their mother in the hospital, she turns out to be a walking miracle, since she's a robot below the waist and is wired to a machine and a robotic spine. After spending some time together, Ernest and Jerome head home. They stop at a gas station where Ernest ignores Robbie, who's using his wife and a newborn baby as bait to get financial help. The wife asks Ernest to adopt them, but he politely refuses since he has financial troubles himself. While the wife reveals her husband's intention of selling the baby for water and money, meanwhile, Robbie talks to Jerome about his sister's boyfriend, who claims Mary smells like crap and tastes like lemon. Ernest approaches Robbie and offers him free water whenever he needs it, if he doesn't use his wife as bait. When the father-son returns home, Flem comes on his bike, asking Ernest to help him by giving away his Simulate so he can sell his supplies to the water workers and negotiate for water to irrigate their land. The way Mary leaves behind her nail polish to come look at Flem, it is clear that Flem is her boyfriend. Now, Ernest politely refuses to help him and tells Flem he can use the Simulate for free when he's not using it. Before leaving, Flem cusses at Ernest and reminds him of his wife's accident, which remains a mystery. Later that day, Ernest takes Jerome to tear down the room and take out the motor above the well since the water has stopped. While hoping for rain to end the drought, Ernest wishes for Mary's boyfriend to fall into the ditch that has now been revealed after he's taken out the motor because he worries for her. Contrary to that, he encourages Jerome to meet a girl he's seen on the border and do something social in his life. He gets out of the well and starts a friendly spar while telling Jerome to step up and get into a relationship. When they return home, Ernest gets into an argument with Mary while trying to explain how he wants to protect him from Flem. She expresses her hatred for her father for restraining her.
It makes me hate you. Do you feel anything when I say that? I hate you!
Out of breath and crying, she runs to the garage and asks Jerome for money so she can escape. Jerome immediately gives him the money Ernest had given him at the auction. Ernest sees this and forcefully takes it from Mary while ignoring her cries and screams. The following evening, he sits down to sip the booze he sells, while Mary hatefully sees him from her now nailed-down window. The next day, Flem breaks into Ernest's garage and steals the Simulate. When Ernest finds his carrier missing, he figures Flem is behind it, so he drives to his place, where Flem's father welcomes him by holding him against his gun. The two sit down for a chat, where Ernest finds out Flem has fled to the mountains to sell his supplies to the government-hired workers at the water site. Ernest travels a long distance to reach there, and almost passes out in the scorching heat. When he reaches there, the main guy, Caleb, throws him a knockout punch. When Ernest regains consciousness, Caleb accuses him of stealing his supplies. But Ernest knows it's Flem's doing, and that he's up to no good. He tackles a man who tries fighting him and gets a hold of his gun, which he points at Caleb and runs away. On his way back to his truck, he finds Flem taped to a tree trunk, so he frees him from the tree. Flem opens his eyes in the morning to Ernest's gun pointed at him. Ernest wants to take him back to the mountain to return the supplies and sustain his relationship with Caleb. Midway, Flem stops and begs Ernest to let him have a sip of the alcohol. Now, Flem plays his politics by getting Ernest drunk and keeping himself sharp. He blames the state for taking his father's land and handing it to Ernest, a man with no resources or power who led the land to die.
It's not my fault. The state took my father's land and gave it to whatever you are. No resources, no skills, no money. And it died.
He also reveals his plan to take the supplies to the border and resell them for a threefold higher price. Ernest is strictly against his decision, so he tries to get moving up to the mountain, but he gets tipsy, which gives Flem the opportunity to throw a stone at him, causing a serious injury to the back of his head. He ties the dying Ernest's hand with the simulet, framing it for his death. He returns to Mary's place and runs away with her. Jerome becomes concerned for his father, so he goes up the mountain to look for him. He meets up with Caleb and gives him half a bottle of alcohol to look for his father, thinking he's troubled with getting drunk. Caleb pities him and tells him what the simulet did to his father. Up next, we see Jerome and Mary shedding tears at their father's grave at his funeral. They take the snapshot and visit their bedridden mother in the hospital to show her the picture of the funeral. Flem shows up in the truck to pick them up, revealing himself as their new caretaker. At home, Jerome tries to destroy the simulet with a sledgehammer. Flem sits him down and not only reveals that Mary is pregnant with his baby, but also asks for his opinion about reconducting the supply trade with Caleb. Jerome, being a soft and pure soul, doesn't talk him out of it. At night, Flem sits down with Caleb and gets him drunk. He blackmails Caleb into supplying water to his reclaimed Ernest's land for fair prices, or else he will blame him for Ernest's death since he knows about the fight he had before Ernest died.
About what you did to Ernest that night before he died.
Caleb gets inclined and agrees to do business with him. Now, we see the pipes getting laid all over the land, and a ribbon-cutting ceremony where they honor Ernest and his children to reap the rewards of their land. He plows the fields using the simulet and showers with Mary. In a time lapse, we see the land prospering and turning into a lush wheat crop. When he marries Mary and tattoos each other's initials on their palms using a sharp tool, the guilt of taking Ernest's life looms over Flem's head. Now that he officially owns the land, 3 horsemen from the bank show up and try to repossess the land, since Ernest owes a huge debt to the bank. Flem aggressively refuses to take the land and promises to repay the loan. For that, he tricks Robbie into selling his baby to a ratchet bikers gang by lying to him about seeing what a baby is worth, so he can sell Mary's baby once it's born. When the bikers take away his baby, he flips out on Flem, causing the bikers to shoot him. They try to shoot Flem, but he flees. When he returns, he lies about paying the debt by selling the simulet. Mary is happy for him, but Jerome feels upset about the situation. Subsequently, the chipped simulet limps its way to its manufacturer, who lives across the border. He tries to contact the owner, Ernest, through a CB radio, but he finds Jerome on the other end, so he tells him about their simulet's journey. Meanwhile, Flem's father, Sam, puts up a pigeon race in his biting auction. Jerome and Flem spot Robbie's wife, who's still holding a plastic doll, in hopes that Robbie will return home with their baby. Flem immediately takes her away. Jerome tries telling Flem about the CB radio thing, but he ignores him and leaves before anyone else sees the fake baby. At lunch, when Jerome interrogates him, he makes up a lie about Robbie running away with the simulet. This causes Jerome to visit the manufacturer himself. He takes the bus and embarks on his journey. He meets up with a girl named Anna from the settlers, who are rebelling against the government for their own means. With her help, Jerome is able to cross the border and meet the manufacturer in person, who introduces him to the simulet's hidden recording function. When Jerome plays the recording, he finds out the truth about Flem and how he's been manipulating, blackmailing, and killing people, especially Ernest, to get what he wants. He returns home and demands an explanation for the simulet's arrival since Flem told them Robbie had run away with it. Flem covers up his lie with more lies, which Jerome doesn't find appealing. He doesn't take any action and decides to play with Flem the way he plays others. He posts fake letters to Flem from Robbie and also contacts him on the radio, posing as Robbie. Once convinced, Flem decides to meet Robbie in the desert in person to put an end to the drama. Unbeknownst to him, Ernest had once set up a trap above his well in hopes that he would catch Mary's boyfriend in it one day and make him suffer. Flem finally takes the fall into the Fitch on his way to meet Robbie and breaks both his legs. Soon, Jerome arrives to reveal himself, but Flem gets the notion of the entire situation and tries to act innocent in the event of Ernest's death. Jerome puts a bullet in his head and continues living with his pregnant sister, whom he withholds the events and circumstances of their father's murder by Flem because he doesn't want her to take stress while carrying a child. As the two prosper, they plan to get their mother discharged from the hospital and bring her back home now that they can pay for her mandatory medical attention and hope for Mary's child to be a girl. Here, the movie ends. Thank you for being a part of our video. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned. And until next time, stay captivated.